Okay.
Hi, everyone. We're having a very, to me, interesting episode today on empowering women. And my guest, Ms. Annie Russell de Mendez, has been my narrator for my first book, Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, which we had translated into Spanish, and she was nice enough to narrate it for Audible. So thank you for being here today, Annie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh no, we have a lot in common. Being women, of course, that's part of it right there. But we've all been through it, and what's going on today, especially in our country of America, is a lot of things that scare me a little bit. I see a lot of discrimination things and marginalizing Blacks, the gay community, women. So
Right.
we are part of that. Um, how can I put it? A lot of men have a thing about women. They're just afraid of us, and it comes out in resentment and anger. So, Annie, you are very interested in this topic. What inspired you to be an empowered woman?
This is such a great question, and this is a fantastic subject. I'm very excited about uh, talking about this subject today. Before I tell you what empowered me about being an empowered woman, I want to tell you. Uh, I actually want to discuss what empowerment means.
Oh, that's
Um,
even better. That's
It's
even better.
so according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, empowerment refers to the act of granting authority or power to something or someone. So it involves enabling individuals or communities uh, to become stronger and more confident, especially when it comes to controlling their lives and their rights. And so, in a nutshell, that's the way Merriam Webster dictionary describes it. And I would like to add that empowerment goes a little further, and you cannot have empowerment without self-determination. So with self-determination, it's just is needed to reach the state of being empowered. And what I'm saying here is that self-determination is having the ability and the autonomy to make the choices, and the right to take action is empowerment. So they go hand in hand, which can have it have all the determination. I'm sorry. I'm like, whew,
No, it's okay.
so excited about this subject. I'm getting a little nervous. But you can have all the rights in the world, but if you don't have the determination, you lose the empowerment.
Yeah, let me just jump in
And
and just
the other way around.
right, right. I want to jump in because what you're saying is perfect. My first book, which was a memoir, the reason I titled it the way I did, Raised by Wolves, they were my parents. They didn't want me to leave home ever. They wanted me to
Right,
stay there. It's like enslavement, child labor. And the demons were the men in my life when I finally did get out of the house. And I had no power. I had no power for a long time, and I did not really know how to get it. And I had to fall down many, many times and
right,
make very bad choices and decisions in my life until I finally, what you were talking about, went deep inside and found that I call it grit. And that grit is what makes you resilient and makes you resolve that you are going to change your circumstances. And I think that's what you were saying.
right. Yes, that grit is the self-determination that
Yes.
you need to make those to act
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
leave whatever situation it is that you're in, and that's what, that with the right to do it is what creates empowerment. um
Yes.
so now that we've discussed that, I'm going to tell you a little bit of made me what inspired me to be an empowered woman. And
Yes.
there are two things. One, my mother, and I know this is a cliche, and I'm gonna get to my mother in a minute because although it was her, eh, the way or the reason that she inspired me to be empowered is not because I was raised to be empowered, but we'll get to that in a minute. Um, Also, I grew up in New York City, and I would see these women wearing a business suit and carrying a briefcase and, walking into what I thought were these important buildings. And that to me was like the holy grail of women. Wow, I want to grow up to be one of them.
Mm.
I want to carry a briefcase. I want to wear a business suit. I didn't know what I needed to do to wear a business suit, but I wanted one.
Mhm.
Um, and even like today, we just need to realize that there are other girls looking at us um, for that empowerment. And now going to my mother, she didn't raise me to be a powerful woman. She did not. She raised me to cook. She raised me to clean, and raised me to serve my husband. And like women, many women in different cultures were raised to be subservient to our husbands. I remember as a 7-year-old, she would teach me. Sorry about that. As a 7-year-old, she would say, "You need to learn how to iron clothes so that you can iron your husband's shirts." She wouldn't say so that you could look nice and clean. It was to serve him. Uh,
Mhm.
you need to learn how to cook so that
Yeah.
you can cook for your husband one day, not so that you can feed yourself when you're hungry. So by the time I was 11, I was cooking for a family of 7. Um,
Mm.
so, I grew up watching her cooking for my father. She washed, she ironed his clothes. She made sure that he was always well dressed, well fed, and that all his needs were met. She didn't meet her needs, and neither did he. He didn't care. She worked in factories. She worked sewing clothing. She did the housework. She raised her 5 children. And she helped him around when she got home. She helped him with the farm. She helped him with whatever work he was doing at the time.
Mm.
Um, she did everything. But she would come home from a hard day of work to an abusive husband.
And more
And
work.
right. And so she would get up the next morning with a black eye, go back to work, come home, be abused, take care of her children, take
Mm.
care of the household, help my dad in everything that he needed. So
Mm.
she didn't raise me to be empowered, but I grew up watching her and I knew that that's not what I wanted.
Right. Right.
And that's what gave me the
Yeah.
determination to not be what I was being raised to be.
Right.
Um, she also always told me, "You do what men do." However, she confronted my dad. And as a little girl, to be surrounded by women that are subservient and that are being abused by their husband, to watch my mom stand up to him and grab the frying pan and say, "Hey, you think you're man enough to hit me? Come hit me."
So,
And no,
yeah,
it wasn't a healthy environment,
no. But she
but
stood
she
up for
stood
herself.
up to him.
Right.
And that is that's what made me respect her because children, especially children that grow up in abusive homes, we're always going to love our parents. Um, but the respect is not necessarily there.
Right.
And
Mhm.
that's the reason I do respect my mother today, is because she did stand up to him. They've been married for 60 years. A lot has changed since. Um, there's still a lot of argument, but I did see her do a lot of work that weren't necessarily for men.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, for women to do. It was men only, and I saw her doing it. So, her standing up to him and her taking other roles definitely inspired me.
And
To
it's not that, and I want my listeners to know this, especially women that are in unfortunate circumstances of abuse from a husband or a parent and don't know what to do. You know, we're not saying that you don't have resilience, resolve, grit. It's just they're untapped. And I,
Right.
for me, I was too naive and too afraid and shy to do anything at 17, 19, 20, you know. And this is why you and I are putting out books and podcasts and speaking to help these women that, yeah, I don't like this, but I don't know how to get out of it, right?
Oh,
So
I mean, it took a lot of practice for me as well. I was involved in a lot of bad relationships because I sought that love. I wanted to be loved.
yes,
I
yes,
wanted the stability, but it took a lot of practice relationships before I got to my husband. You know, before I met a husband that actually, or a man that actually loved me and respected me and
yes,
treated me as equal. And
yeah,
you know, that's when I finally made the choice. I will
right,
marry him, but it took, like I say, a lot of practice relationships.
yeah. And minorities for decades now, hundreds of years. It's been a struggle, and every time you think there's a little progress, you get pushed back. Because like the 50s, women couldn't even vote. They couldn't have a credit card. All right. So we got together and we made a big fuss to get those things. And
Right.
in the 60s, even though Black people were free, they were still being discriminated against. And what did they do? They did a lot of nonviolent demonstrations and tried to get, and they had the Equal Rights Amendment. And gays, they just went through it not too long ago. You
I
know,
mean,
got
I
the
think we're all still going through it, but yes, they are the newest uh,
yes, yes.
victims of society.
But take all those three groups I'm talking about, and a couple of years ago, I was having lunch with a gay Black male friend of mine, and I said to him, Yule, you know what? Women, gays, and people of color, we're in danger. It's not over. Because, and
Right.
guess what? What did they start doing? Overturning laws that were for women, right? Doing
Yes.
all these things. The fight is not over,
The
right?
fight is barely beginning. I mean, it's gonna take a lot more, but you know, I have being a Gen Xer, I have your generation and the generations before you to thank for the doors that you opened for me. And now I am doing everything possible to open doors for other women that come behind me. I want to make sure, like, I have a child, I want to make sure that she knows uh, her
Mhm.
rights and that she knows um, she has the grit and she has the self-determination to do what she wants when she wants.
And
And
and all I want to say this, all men are not misogynistic.
oh no,
No. And that's important because sometimes when you have a challenge and you just don't know what to do, sometimes a man, a nice, respectable man, a role model that I had, he helped me. He empowered me because what he told me was, he said, look, you're very intelligent, you're attractive. I know you have two little kids, but you're going nowhere with this guy. He's abusive. He doesn't bring any money into the house. He said, get a divorce and go to college. And if he didn't say that to me, I wonder how long I would have been still like in this tizzy and this repeating cycle of abuse and all that stuff. And it was hard, Annie. I mean, the man was not going to let me go that easy. I had to deal
right?
with stalking and everything else. But I went to college with two little kids and no child support. And that's where that grit comes in
Yes,
and the resolve and the resilience to keep going. So I just think women need to find support wherever they can, but you have to look for it. It's not going to come to you and knock on the door, right?
yes, we do.
what are some things you had to overcome to get where you are today?
Um, being a Latina female, the culture was, and it's not as much as prominent now, at least not in Puerto Rico. In other countries it is. I mean, there's still obviously families that believe it, but women were raised to cook, clean, and I'm a horrible, just horrible at taking care of the house. I hate it. So power to those women that absolutely love it and enjoy it and do it on a daily basis. Oh gosh, I admire you.
Mm.
Um, but jumping those, having getting an education was very difficult. When I graduated high school and I said I want to go to college, I was told no.
Me too. No.
I was
Mhm.
told, "No, you're not going to college. You're gonna get married and your husband's gonna support you."
And I was told, no, we're not going to spend money for you to go to college because you'll just get married and have children and it'll be a waste. And
Right.
that was in the United States. So there you go. Same ideas.
I when I came home, I was 23 and I came home and told my parents I'm going into the military. That was a very sore subject.
I brought up that too. I said, if you don't want to pay for college, how about if I join the Navy? And they said, only whores go in the service, not
And
girls. I'm like, what am I going to do?
I wasn't I was told I was crazy. That's for men. Women don't do that.
Right.
Um and it took a lot of convincing from my brother, my younger brother, convinced my parents to let me go. And while I was 23 and I could have made that choice on my own, I had too much respect and fear. I
Exactly.
didn't know if I would leave, if I would be able to leave without their blessing. I was scared of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too. Same
but
here.
I did. I left. I joined the military. I traveled the world. I can't say I traveled many countries, um, but I went to more places than I ever thought I would go to because I thought that Puerto Rico and New York City were the only two places for me. So, having been to maybe 6 different countries and 17 different states, I can say that's a lot more than just Puerto Rico and New York City.
Yeah.
Um, so
Now,
yeah, those are some of the challenges where I mean, I am 45 and I am still getting my education. I'm getting my doctorate's degree in counseling.
I didn't get my degree until I was over 40 because when I first tried to get it with the husband that wouldn't let me go, was stalking me, I could only get 2 years in without having a nervous breakdown. And then I had to wait 10 years before I had an opportunity again. But there you go. There's that resolve that doesn't matter how old you are. And
Right.
also, I will say too, for some people that are listening, and that college isn't everything anymore.
Oh,
Like
no,
it's
it's not.
need to go to college, but there are
Yeah.
technical schools. And when I couldn't go to college, I found a vocational school short term for medical secretary, and I took it. And that was good because then I was able to get a good job, you know. And the key is that you have to be self-supporting. You have to have some money coming in, not your husband. You.
Right. Um, uh-oh. I think we're having a little bit of connection issue. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you
Okay,
fine.
perfect. Perfect. So
That's okay.
I think, you know, women have a lot of challenges. And say I can say this are there's not a lot of women in leadership positions. Um, there's a lack of economic opportunities for women. There's a lot of discrimination in the workplace. I actually was discriminated in several workplaces. Um, but I think that our biggest challenge yet is ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I think that might be changing a little bit now because there are so many women out there that are successful. And I know like there's this big craze, this big trend now with Taylor Swift. But guess what? If those young girls from like 10 to 40, whatever age they are, respect her, she is an independent woman. She is not taking anything from anybody, and she's very influential, you know. And when I was growing up in my decade, it was people like Gloria Steinem and Jane Fonda and those people, Betty Friedan, and they were fighting for women's rights. And at the same time, Martin Luther King was fighting for the blacks. And
Right.
The gays were hiding then. That was 50s and
Right.
60s. No. But the thing of it is today, I think they have a lot more input that we did not have. We didn't have a podcast that we listened to and said, oh, okay, I see what they did there. You know what I'm saying? So
Right. Oh no, we didn't have
nothing.
rules. We did not.
We had no good role models. You know, that was just the way it was. And the kids that I went to school with that did go to college, you know, my parents were like, oh, well, their parents had money. You know, that's why they're going, you know. But let me ask you this. So now let's say you get out of an abusive relationship or you're not in one, but you haven't found your place yet in the world. What advice can we give these young women who are just starting out in life and a career?
You know, work hard. I think that's the best advice I can give any woman. It's work hard. Nothing's gonna get handed to you. You
That's
gotta
right.
get you gotta get up and you need to work your butt off. Um, pick something that you like. Pick something that you're passionate about. Don't follow a career just because it's a career or just because it's gonna pay the bills. Because
Exactly.
it doesn't matter what you do, if you're the best at it,
That's right.
you're going to make your money.
Yep.
Oh, don't follow a career because of the money. Follow a career because that's what you love. That's where your passion lays,
I
and work
absolutely
your butt off
right.
because no one's
Yeah,
gonna give it to you.
I agree. And the thing of it is, when I was young, they would talk about the glass ceiling, that women were only allowed to rise so far, and then there was a glass ceiling that would stop us. It's still there. It's still there. But the thing of it is, you have to have some chutzpah. I know myself, I've been in a meeting where there's also men in the room, and I would say, oh, how about this idea? Da-da. And nobody'd say anything. And 5 minutes later, a man would say the exact same thing that I just said. And they'd go, oh, what a great idea. Like we're invisible.
There are so many tools out there. I'd say grab a hammer and break that glass ceiling.
You have
You
to.
have to speak up for yourself.
Yeah, excuse me, I said that 5 minutes ago. You know,
Right.
most women are not going to do that. They're going to be like, oh, just resentful. But that doesn't get you anywhere. And then you always have the danger that, oh, now they're going to say she's this angry bitch. You know, well, guess what? I would rather be an angry bitch than put in the corner. That's how I feel, you know? Now, Annie, I don't want to run out of time. So, how about the subject? How about how women over 40 are treated? Let's talk about that.
Ooh.
That's a
Um,
good one.
that is a good one. Well,
Juicy.
it's really interesting because society has a standard, and women over 40, we don't meet that standard. You know,
Mm,
society is very pro youth,
yes.
and let's let's talk like women. You know, women at 40, we are either starting a career or we're starting a family because we chose to either do our career first or our family first.
Yes. Hmm.
Um, and we have to jump through hoops.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not only are we jumping through hoops and paving the way for younger generations, but we're opening doors that were slammed in our faces and we're starting all over. Um, and to add to it, our bodies are shift changing. I mean, our hormones are acting up. Uh, and I'm mentioning the ugly before mentioning the beautiful. It's all part of being a woman. And society sees us either too old to start a family, or too old to start a career, too old to get into an education,
Yeah.
too old for that mini skirt, or too
Oh,
old
God,
for that haircut.
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and we just need to get, like, society needs to realize that we don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care about your opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and the few of us that do think that we need to meet those standards, don't. Love yourself.
Right.
Don't be cookie cutter. If you are inside that little box and you're trying to live within those little box, there's
Yeah.
not enough space in there to dance. Get out of the box and dance your way through life.
You know what? 3 years ago is when I wrote my first book. I was 72 years old. Now, I didn't plan it, it just happened. But here I write a book, it's doing very well. I'm in my 70s. I don't look like I'm in my 70s because I make
Right.
sure to take care of myself. But point being, I'm over 40, aren't I? I'm way over 40. And I ended up writing 2 more books. We have the podcast, right? And the thing that gets me is, I feel bad for women that grew up in my generation. You're a little younger than me, so you didn't have it as much. But that
Right.
I feel like that. I know women here who have never driven a car, and now the husband dies, right? I had a woman, I started a caregiver support group because women outlive men. Statistically, this is true. And so what happens is a lot of times the man is going to go first. This woman, at first, she had to care for him in those declining years. So she became a caregiver. Okay.
Right.
I am too with my husband a little bit too. And you have to make time for yourself. And she said to me, I had to learn how to put gas in the car. Now, this is what I'm saying. So it's like, even myself, as independent as I have always been, I always let him do like the finances and everything, the bank. Well, I'm doing that now. I have to teach myself that. So my advice is like, know how to do everything. Know how to put gas in the car, even if you have a nice husband. Know how to do the bank, everything. What do you think about that? You agree?
I absolutely agree. There are so many women out there that have started their career after 40. I mean, I'm going to mention just a few. Like Vera Wang didn't open her first bridal shop till she was 40.
Yeah.
Angeline Woolley didn't publish her first novel until she was 55.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart, she
Oh,
was 21 when she
mm,
started her career.
yeah.
And Chris
Yes. Yeah.
Kris Jenner was 52 when she pitched the idea of keeping up with the Kardashians, and
And
that
now,
woman has created
yeah,
an immense wealth for her family.
I know. So,
We need to stop telling ourselves that
mm,
we can't, and we need to stop trying to fit in that little box that society wants to put us in.
exactly. We have to say yes to things. I know for me with retirement, I did try to keep active, and I was with a lot of volunteer things. But when this book and other career now that I have came, I had to make some decisions because I do take care of my husband a certain amount. He has stage 3 Parkinson's. So there's a lot of things that I do that he used to do, right? I had to step off the 2 boards I was on because I was spending too much time. I really wasn't a good fit because I'm an action person and they just want to talk about things and I want to solve it. So I thought,
Right.
well, I'm wasting my time. So I had the guts to say, I'm not running again. I'm stepping off. I want to devote my time when I'm not with my husband to this, to helping people and not just women. My next book is going to be a non-gender workbook on how to heal from trauma and abuse.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
That
I'm
is
branching out. So what, we're going to wrap it up. So what do we kind of hit everything, but the most effective strategy for women, I think we talked about that you have to love what you do and go after it. What's the key message that you hope our listeners got today? What do you think?
you know, I think for women, for the women listening, I want you to know that you're already powerful. You need to recognize that you're powerful, and you need to use your voice, and better yourself, or reach for the star and take one. Like, you're the one stopping yourself. Advocate for your rights. Do not think that power is superiority. It's not. Like, we're not superior to men. We're not superior to other women. We're all equals. And then, and to the men listening, I want you to look around. I want you to look at older women that you're surrounded by. Look at the women that love you, that take care of you, that nurture you, and do not allow anyone to take that from them. You know, by demeaning their powers, like, stand up, advocate, because we can create a better world together.
That's right. And, put down those romance novels that you're reading. And if you pick up my book, and this is true, Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, when you see what I went through and where I am today, you will get inspired. And the whole reason I had Annie do it in Spanish, it's available in Spanish. Say the name in Spanish for me.
Criada por lobos, atrapada por demonios.
Thank you.
It is a fantastic book, and I wouldn't have narrated it if it wasn't. It really is a story of survival, of thriving, of empowerment, and I really do recommend it.
And it can be, maybe it'll inspire somebody. I hope so. I made it low enough in cost that anybody can afford it, so I can get it out there. Well, thank you so much. We're going to run out of time, but we are going to do another podcast because I want to do a podcast with you on the Spanish book. And I have an idea of how to do that a little differently.
Oh, fun.
So I will talk to you later about that. Thank you so much, Annie, for being here. Thank you, all my listeners.
Thank you for having me.
I can't wait. I love having you. I'll have you again real soon. All right. Have a great day and get empowered and find that grit.
All right. Take care.